A thief, not a murderer, Yoshie Shira Tori's wrongful imprisonment. Yoshie Shira Tori was a man of simple origins, born in Japan in 1907. He was a skilled craftsman, a dab hand with tools and his mind. But fate, it seemed, had a cruel twist in store for him. In 1933, he was accused of murder, a crime he vehemently denied. The evidence was flimsy, circumstantial at best. Yet the court handed down a life sentence, condemning Shira Tori to the cold embrace of prison walls. He was no killer, he argued, but a thief, a petty criminal who had already served time for his transgressions. This murder charge, he knew, was a travesty, a grave miscarriage of justice. The weight of his sentence was heavier than any iron bars. Aomori prison, his new home, loomed large, a symbol of his wrongful confinement. It was here that Yoshie Shira Tori's legend began to take shape. Born not from malice or cruelty, but from an unyielding desire for freedom, a burning ember of hope in the face of despair. His resolve hardened. He would prove his innocence not through pleas or legal battles, but through the most daring of acts, escape. The prison, with its cold concrete walls and watchful eyes, became his obsession. He studied its routines, memorized the guards' movements, and analyzed every inch of his cell. Shira Tori possessed a keen mind, a mind that could find opportunity where others saw only confinement. He was determined to break free, not just from the physical prison, but from the shackles of a wrongful conviction. He would reclaim his life, one daring escape at a time. The will to break free, the first escape from Aomori prison. Aomori prison was a formidable fortress. Its guards were vigilant, its walls high, its security seemingly impenetrable. Yet Shira Tori saw not obstacles, but opportunities. His cell, a cramped concrete box, became his workshop. Using only his ingenuity and the most basic of tools, he began his audacious plan. His resourcefulness knew no bounds. He meticulously disassembled his meager meals, extracting the miso soup's metal staples. These he painstakingly bent and sharpened, transforming them into crude yet effective tools. Days turned into weeks, each tick of the clock bringing him closer to his goal. He chipped away at the weakened metal frame of his cell window, his heart pounding with each metallic groan. He worked tirelessly, fueled by the injustice of his imprisonment and the dream of freedom. Finally, after months of meticulous planning and relentless effort, the moment arrived. The night was dark, the air thick with anticipation. He squeezed through the narrow opening he had created, a passage carved not just through metal, but through the bars of injustice. He tasted freedom, sweet and fleeting. His escape made headlines. The authorities were stunned. How could this seemingly ordinary man, convicted of a heinous crime, have outwitted them so easily? They underestimated Yoshie Shira Tori, mistaking his quiet demeanor for weakness. They would soon learn that his determination, fueled by the fire of injustice, was a force to be reckoned with. A shadow over Akita outsmarting the guards. Once more, his newfound freedom was short-lived. Recaptured after a mere 3 days, Shira Tori found himself transferred to Akita prison. This new prison, they claimed, was escape-proof. It was larger, more modern, designed to crush the spirit of even the most determined inmate. But Shira Tori, far from defeated, saw his recapture as a challenge, a chance to hone his skills, to learn from his mistakes. He would not be deterred. Akita was different. The guards were more alert, their eyes constantly scanning for any sign of defiance. The routines were stricter, the punishments harsher. Yet Shira Tori's spirit did not waver. He adapted, his mind becoming a steel trap, observing, analyzing, and planning. He discovered a weakness in Akita's design, a flaw hidden in plain sight. The handcuffs, used to restrain prisoners during work details, were his target. He studied them, memorized their mechanism, his fingers itching to exploit their vulnerability. The opportunity arose during one of his work shifts. With deft hands and a quiet mind, he picked the lock of his handcuffs, his heart racing against the rhythm of the prison's machinery. He slipped away unnoticed, melting into the shadows, a ghost in the stark prison corridors. He was free again, but this time the taste of liberty was laced with the bitter knowledge that he was public enemy number one. Abashiri's iron grip, facing the harsh realities of Japan's Alcatraz. His second escape sent shockwaves through the Japanese penal system. Shira Tori became a national sensation, a folk hero to some, a dangerous criminal to others. The authorities, their pride wounded, were determined to break him. He was deemed incorrigible, a threat to the very order of their system. They shipped him north to the edge of the world, to Abashiri prison. Abashiri, nicknamed Japan's Alcatraz, was a different breed altogether. Located on the northernmost island of Hokkaido, it was a brutal place of bitter cold, harsh winds, and unforgiving terrain. The prison was designed to break the human spirit, to crush any hope of escape. The landscape itself was a jailer, a vast expanse of icy wilderness that promised only suffering and death to those who dared to challenge it. Shira Tori was thrown into this unforgiving environment, subjected to back-breaking labor, meager rations, and constant surveillance. The guards, hardened by the harsh climate and the nature of their work, treated the inmates with disdain, their eyes reflecting the coldness of their surroundings. They believed they had finally broken Yoshie Shira Tori. They were wrong. They had underestimated the power of a man driven by a thirst for justice, a man who refused to be defined by the walls that confined him. Nature becomes his ally, exploiting weakness in the impregnable. Abashiri's harsh conditions meant to break him, ironically, became his salvation. He noticed that the constant cold and humidity had a peculiar effect on the metal fixtures of his cell, weakening them over time. He observed the guards, their vigilance dulled by the monotonous routine and the biting wind that swept across the prison yard. Shira Tori saw opportunity in the very elements that were designed to crush the human spirit. He devised a plan so audacious, so improbable, that it bordered on madness. He would use the prison's own harsh environment against itself. He began to weaken the iron grille of his cell window, not with stolen tools, but with his own hands. He patiently poured warm miso soup over the metal, day after day, exploiting the corrosive properties of the salty broth. The metal, weakened by the constant cycle of heat and cold, began to yield to his relentless efforts. His escape, when it finally came, was the stuff of legends. On a stormy night, as the wind howled like a banshee and snow lashed against the prison walls, Yoshie Shira Tori made his move. He slipped through the weakened grille, his body aching from the cold and years of hard labor. He was free, swallowed by the blizzard, a phantom disappearing into the white wilderness. Abashiri, the impregnable, had been breached. The price of freedom, years on the run, driven by desperation. For 3 years, Yoshie Shira Tori lived as a fugitive. He roamed the vast wilderness of Hokkaido, a ghost haunting the edges of civilization. He scavenged for food, enduring the harsh winters and scorching summers. The elements, once his allies in escape, became his constant adversaries, but he pressed on. Driven by the knowledge that his innocence was yet to be proven, he became a phantom, appearing in remote villages only to vanish before the authorities could catch up. Rumors of his exploits spread like wildfire, turning him into a folk hero, a symbol of resilience against an unyielding system. But the years on the run took their toll. He was gaunt, his body weathered, his hair streaked with grey. The constant fear of capture gnawed at him, a constant reminder of the price of freedom. He longed for a normal life, a life where he could walk under the open sky without fear, where he could sleep without the dread of the knock on the door. But the thirst for justice, the burning need to clear his name, kept him going. He would not surrender, not until the truth was revealed. A moment of compassion, the Sapporo Guard, and an unexpected turn. In 1948, after years of evading the authorities, Shira Tori's luck seemed to run out. He was apprehended in Sapporo, his body weary, his spirit worn thin. He was brought before a young prison guard, a man named Kobayashi, who had heard the legends of the prison break magician. Kobayashi, unlike the other guards, saw not a hardened criminal but a tired man, his eyes reflecting years of hardship and the weight of a wrongful conviction. Struck by Shira Tori's calm demeanor and the sincerity in his voice as he proclaimed his innocence, Kobayashi made a decision that would alter the course of both their lives. He offered Shira Tori a cigarette, a small act of kindness that spoke volumes in that harsh environment. As they smoked together, a bond of understanding formed between the fugitive and the guard. Kobayashi, moved by Shiratori's story, promised to look into his case. This simple act of compassion, a brief respite in the darkness, would have far-reaching consequences. It rekindled a flicker of hope in Shiratori's heart. Perhaps he dared to dream. This time would be different. Perhaps this time justice would prevail. Despite his recapture, Yoshie Shiratori's spirit remained unbroken. He was no longer merely fighting for his freedom, but for his dignity, for the recognition of his innocence. True to his word, Guard Kobayashi investigated Shiratori's claims. He delved into the old case files, uncovering inconsistencies and questionable evidence that had been overlooked or ignored during the original trial. The more he learned, the more convinced he became of Shiratori's innocence. Kobayashi's findings sent ripples through the justice system. Public sentiment, fueled by news of Shiratori's incredible escapes and his unwavering claims of innocence, began to shift. People saw him not as a dangerous criminal, but as a victim of a flawed system, a man unjustly imprisoned. The authorities, facing mounting pressure and undeniable evidence of a miscarriage of justice, were forced to reopen Shiratori's case. The retrial was a media sensation. Yoshie Shiratori, once a forgotten inmate, became a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of perseverance. He sat in the courtroom, no longer a ghost haunting the fringes of society, but a man demanding his rightful place in the light. The retrial exposed the flaws of the original case. Witnesses recanted their testimonies, new evidence emerged, and the prosecution's case crumbled under the weight of its own inconsistencies. The truth, suppressed for so long, finally came to light. After 15 long years of wrongful imprisonment and daring escapes, Yoshie Shiratori was acquitted of the murder charges. The courtroom erupted in cheers. Shiratori, overcome with emotion, wept openly. Justice, though delayed, had finally prevailed. His story resonated deeply with the Japanese public, who saw in him a reflection of their own struggles in the aftermath of the war. He became a national hero, a symbol of resilience, determination, and the unwavering pursuit of truth. His release was more than just a personal victory. It was a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity, to expose injustice, and to inspire hope even in the darkest of times. Yoshie Shiratori's story is a powerful reminder that even within the confines of prison walls, the human spirit can soar. His escapes were not merely acts of defiance, they were acts of survival fueled by an unyielding belief in his own innocence and a burning desire to reclaim his life. He challenged the very notion of what it meant to be imprisoned, proving that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, hope and ingenuity can pave the path to freedom. His legacy extends far beyond the prison walls. He became a symbol of resilience for a nation still reeling from the devastation of war. His story resonated with those who had lost everything, reminding them that even in the face of despair, the human spirit could endure. He taught them that justice, though sometimes slow and arduous, was worth fighting for, that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, could be brought to light. Shiratori's life, though marred by injustice, ultimately became a beacon of hope. He proved that even the most rigid systems could be challenged, that the human will could triumph over adversity.